Welcome to Into the Woo, a wellness podcast hosted by Alice Hu. I'll be exploring the world of crystals, energy healing, spirit guides, and more to help you understand how they can unlock your potential. These concepts have helped me discover my purpose and my truth, and I can't wait to hear how they will inspire you. I'll show you how they can be accessible and powerful tools in your life. This episode is especially important for those in their mid-20s and early 30s, also for those in their late 50s, but more on that later. So we all have lessons we need to learn in this lifetime. Saturn, the taskmaster, is here to keep us on track, making sure that we succeed through hard work and self-reflection. Saturn represents structures, authority, responsibility, and maturity. With the Saturn return, the planet comes back to the exact placement of where it was at your birth, signaling an end of a chapter and a new beginning. Your first Saturn return will be around 29 or so, and can be felt a few years before and after. You can think of it as a wake-up call to adulthood, true adulthood that is. Maybe that's why people kind of panic about their 30th birthday. So, questions around Saturn return. Are you fulfilling your purpose, your soul's contract? Have you been learning your lessons, facing your demons, processing and understanding your shadow self? Have you, right? It's not about focusing on the past and your past mistakes, but really on those lessons. So thinking back to any patterns in your life, situations, partnerships, friendships, whatever it may be, what is repeating for you? If it's still happening, you still need to learn the lesson. Think of Saturn return as tough love. It's important to walk through the fire so that you can become a brand new version of yourself. So what can a Saturn return look like? You'll be facing those big life questions. So think of a new beginning, really centered around your purpose and your contribution to the world. It can look like a big move, going back to school, graduating from a program, maybe moving to a new city. It's really a shift that happens inside. Saturn return can hit pretty hard in your career if you've just been coasting or doing something just because it's easy or because you should. Saturn is the planet of accountability and responsibility, so it's going to be a period of time of rebuilding, or if you've been on the right path, a continuation of what you've been creating, but challenging you to think bigger and differently. For me, my Saturn return was really on the nose. I moved back to the US after 5 years of being abroad in late August of 2015. My Saturn return started mid-September that year and lasted until around mid-December 2017. As a reminder, you can feel Saturn return years before the actual transit and a bit after as well. Think of it as becoming a little bit more aware, feeling antsy, needing a change, and then the dust settling. It was exactly during this time when I felt I couldn't continue on my corporate path. I was conflicted about what I wanted and what I should do. It didn't make any logical sense for what I wanted to do. I should have continued working for the same PR agency, growing my career in New York City, but the thought of working in that type of environment again and being thrown into another a-mile-a-minute city brought about feelings of dread. What I really wanted to was to slow down. Up until that point, I had traveled for 3 years nonstop. Really, it was like every 2 weeks, I was going to someplace different. It was for work and it was for pleasure, and it was really amazing. I really saw the world during that time, but I was also getting really, really exhausted. So when I got back to the US, I didn't travel for 6 months. Didn't get on a plane, which is so weird after being on a plane every 2 weeks. And now that I look back, it all makes sense, as Saturn forces you to slow down to re-examine your life. I took the leap into full-time entrepreneurship and grappled with the definitions of and beliefs around success, happiness, purpose, and money. So all of these things you will always have questions about throughout your life, always doing the work around these concepts and beliefs, but during Saturn return, they are a little bit more intense. And so it was during this time that I began to do the self-work. Through yoga and meditation, I began to understand what my values are, and I started to really embrace them. My Saturn return taught me to embrace my true nature, my authentic self, that I am an entrepreneur. I want to make a world a better place. I want to help others and create community. It also taught me the meaning of living with intention. I had a lot of guilt and judgment about being an entrepreneur. I felt like it was so privileged to be able to think you had an idea so powerful that you should pursue it, knowing that most startups fail in the first year. This guilt also came from the disappointment and frustration I knew my parents would share with me. They came to America so I could live a better life, and to them it was a stable 9 to 5. But as we all know, there's really no such thing as a stable job and a job that is only 9 to 5. And it was to buy a home and to have a family, like a very traditional trajectory of life. They didn't come here for me to become an entrepreneur, but I gave myself a chance to try it out, to see, to really follow my intuition. I remember just not wanting to feel regret, that I missed an opportunity. And also, why not? Try it for 6 months. If it doesn't work, find something else. So while at this e-commerce company that I started with my friends, my dive into full-time entrepreneurship, I spoke with my co-founders of what it means to operate a business. What's the difference between a startup and a small business? Do we want to aggressively grow a company? And is this the lifestyle that we want to live? Or is it enough to have a small business? Mind you, a small medium business is defined as any company under 500 employees, which by no means isn't a big deal. So I began to realize that I wanted to create something on my own terms, and that getting venture money and having a quote-unquote unicorn company weren't things that made sense for me. They were things that fed my ego, but not my soul. Now on the other side of my Saturn return, I'm still learning some of the same lessons, but I'm on my path, truly. I'm learning to trust myself and to live in alignment with what feels right for my soul. My Saturn return was a crucial time to process through many limiting beliefs and laid the foundation for this next phase of my life and career. It really helped me birth Woo Woo Company. And I realized that my purpose is to help you uncover your greatest potential while having fun learning about these various modalities. I also learned that for me to be successful, I had to forge my own path and not listen to anyone else. My parents have slowly, I think, signed on to my new life after seeing how happy and fulfilled I am. But I'm not going to lie that there are some moments of tension still, but it's still progress. All right, so how do you know when your Saturn return will happen? Looking at your astrological birth chart can be a little intense, but for this period of time, just look up your Saturn return and the placement of Saturn in your chart. This placement of the planet Saturn will help you understand your purpose and your potential career path. For all those astrology newbies, you'll need your birthday, your birth time, and your birthplace. You may need to call your mom for that birth time. It's really important that you get as accurate of information as possible. So in the show notes, you'll find a birth chart and Saturn return calculator, and also a workbook to help guide you in this Saturn return process with some notes on how to find Saturn in your chart and what it all means. One last thing. Saturn return happens 3 times in your life. Yes. So in your late 20s, your late 50s, and your mid to late 80s. So each period is going to feel a little bit different, and each time an opportunity to up-level. So while the question of purpose and what you will contribute to the world is an ongoing existential question, those 3 periods of time will shine a spotlight on it. I'd love to hear about your Saturn return, or if you have questions about what your Saturn return will look like for you, drop into my Instagram DMs. I'm at WOOWOOCO. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it was eye-opening and insightful. If you loved it, share it with a friend. And please rate the podcast 5 stars.